You don't actually crave the gym. You crave what your brain thinks happens after it. And once you understand that difference, you can hijack it on purpose to make almost anything hard feel like something you want to do. Think about the last time you dreaded a workout, but once you were 10 minutes in, you didn't want to stop. Or the last time you avoided opening a textbook for hours, then finally sat down and lost track of time. Your brain wasn't lying to you before. It just hadn't been given a reason yet to expect a reward. In 2011, a behavioral scientist named Katie Milkman ran a study that quietly cracked this open. She took people who wanted to exercise more, but consistently didn't, and gave one group access to audiobooks they were genuinely hooked on, but only while at the gym. No gym, no story. She called it temptation bundling. The results were striking. That group showed up significantly more often than people given full access to the same audiobooks anytime, anywhere. Restricting the fun thing to the hard thing didn't create resentment. It created craving. Here's the part that matters. Their brains didn't start loving squats. Their brains started associating the gym with a reward they already loved, and that association alone was enough to pull them through the door. To understand why this trick works so well, you have to look at what craving actually is inside your skull. Craving isn't triggered by pleasure itself. It's triggered by the anticipation of pleasure, driven by a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz discovered something counterintuitive decades ago studying this system in primates. Dopamine doesn't spike hardest when you receive a reward. It spikes hardest in the moments leading up to it, when your brain predicts something good is coming. That single fact explains almost every craving you've ever felt. The smell of food triggers more dopamine than the first bite. The notification sound triggers more anticipation than the actual message. Your brain isn't wired to crave outcomes. It's wired to crave predictions, which means the hard thing was never actually the problem. The gym, the homework, the cold email you've been avoiding, none of these naturally trigger a dopamine spike because your brain has no prediction attached to them yet. Just effort, sitting there, unrewarded and easy to avoid. But predictions can be built. Deliberately. That's exactly what temptation bundling does. By chaining a genuinely reward-triggering activity to a genuinely effortful one, you're not forcing willpower to carry the whole weight. You're borrowing dopamine from something your brain already loves and lending it to something it doesn't yet. This works because your brain is remarkably bad at separating the anticipation of two paired things once they've been linked enough times. Ivan Pavlov proved this over a century ago with dogs and bells, but the mechanism is identical in you. Pair a neutral or unpleasant cue with a genuinely rewarding one, repeatedly, and eventually the neutral cue alone starts triggering the same anticipatory response. Your brain stops distinguishing where the good feeling is actually coming from. There's a second layer that makes cravings even stronger, and it's one most people accidentally get backwards. Consistent, predictable rewards create mild interest. Unpredictable rewards create obsession. This is the same mechanism casinos and slot machines run on, and it's rooted in research on variable reinforcement schedules, first studied by psychologist B.F. Skinner. When a reward comes every single time, dopamine anticipation eventually flattens out. When a reward comes sometimes, unpredictably, dopamine anticipation stays elevated far longer because your brain never fully relaxes out of waiting mode, which means the trick isn't just pairing hard things with rewards. It's occasionally making that reward a little uncertain, a little variable, so your brain never fully settles. So how do you actually build this into your life? Start by identifying something you already crave without effort. A show, a playlist, a specific snack, a person you enjoy texting. Then lock it exclusively behind the hard thing. Not I'll treat myself after, days later, disconnected, immediately after, or during. So the two events fuse together in your brain's prediction system while the wiring is still forming. Second, protect the restriction. The Milkman study only worked because the tempting audiobooks were unavailable anywhere else. If your reward leaks into the rest of your day, your brain never builds the specific gym equal story association. The limitation is not the annoying part of this trick. The limitation is the trick. Third, introduce small unpredictability once the habit starts feeling automatic. Rotate which reward follows the hard task. Occasionally make it a little bigger than expected. This keeps the dopamine anticipation from flattening into boredom the way fixed, predictable rewards eventually do. And give it time before judging whether it's working. Association isn't instant. Pavlov's dogs needed repeated pairings before the bell alone triggered salivation. Your brain needs the same repetition before the gym, the desk, or the difficult conversation starts triggering anticipation on its own, instead of dread. What's actually happening here isn't self-deception. It's self-engineering. You're not lying to your brain about what's hard. You're simply giving it a reason, a real, reliable, dopamine-backed reason, to start leaning toward the hard thing instead of away from it. None of this requires more discipline than you currently have. It requires a slightly smarter arrangement of the rewards you already crave, pointed at the efforts you keep avoiding. You never actually crave the gym. You crave the story waiting for you inside it. Build that same trick into anything hard, and eventually your brain stops asking you to force it and starts asking you when you're going.